What up, team? Lovely to have you aboard. Now today we're going to talk about formatting dates and times the easy way. Okay, so I know that in the Pocket Money app that I'm expecting to have to express dates and times, particularly for the users, me and my wife, to know when we last gave our kids pocket money, right? So it's a fairly straightforward idea. So in the past, you would have used something like Moment.js, which is a great JavaScript library that helps you do date and time formatting. But more recently, the platform has taken a little bit of a boost, and now we have it in the form of relative time format, which is what I'm going to use today. So I'm going to mix a few things together today. I'm going to try and make a custom element that uses the shadow DOM and reformats a date and time value to the correct thing. Over here on my screen, I have this components folder. I'm going to say time display, I think. Not TS. We'll go with it. We'll see what I might rename it. Who knows? Class time display extends HTML element. Cool, all good so far. Constructor, let's have one of those because we probably want one. And we have to call the superclass, that's fine. Okay, so to make life easy, I will go to the bootstrap and I'm gonna get rid of that boot that's there. And I'm gonna import the element from the components. So we're gonna go export time display, which I didn't export. Let's go back and export it. There we are. Export time display from components, time display. I'm going to put .js in the end because TypeScript magically knows that I mean the TypeScript file. And all. Yeah, it's magic. Who doesn't love a bit of magic? Custom elements .define. Let's do time display, which means if you find a time display element in the page, instantiate the time display. Okay, that's good. Let's chuck one of those in the page then. I'm going to get rid of this, do time display. Now we've got loads of options here. We could do the time as something like an attribute. We could put it directly into the element, or there's loads of ways we could do it. We could just pull it from local storage or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Local storage. Where did that come from? In any case, I am going to pop it into the DOM directly. To make life easier, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to say new date, and I'm going to say to ISO string, just because that makes life a little bit easier. I'm just going to grab that. There you go. You know what time I'm doing this? I'm doing it on a Saturday. Woo! Look at me. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to pop that in there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start picking up this value and parsing it. Later on, I'll make these probably a little bit more human readable, but that's a separate conversation. The point here is what I want to do is I just want to put the time display with some value in it, because let's just say for argument's sake the JavaScript failed to load or run. There would still be a value here, which is why I'll change it across to a more human readable version later on. But for now, what we want to do is we want to pick up this value inside of the custom element. So to do that, we are going to go over here and we're going to say private root equals, in fact, we'll make it a read only because I don't want to be able to change it, equals this dot attach shadow. Boop. Mode is open for boring reasons, and I'll say this dot root. It's not that boring. I mean, read up on it if you want. It's fair, whatever. Sure. Okay. Inner HTML equals What do we want inside here? We want a slot. So let's put that in slot. And the slot here is going to take whatever's in the light DOM, which is the value, and I'm going to wrap this in something like a div called slotted value. I mean, it's quite verbose, really, Paul. You didn't really need to call it that. And I'm going to chuck a little bit of a style in here, style, and I'm just going to say slotted. Ooh, there we are. Slotted value, color red. Okay. Now we'll know if this is working because theoretically we ought to see our value, our text value, but now in red because it's gone from the light DOM into the slot and it's surrounded by the slotted value, which is saying whatever the contents are, style them red. So we're going to go over here and we are going to hit reload, and there we go, we get our red text. All right, so what are we to make of this? Well, we can do something in our connected callback. Let's do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to look for what's in our light DOM. Now, again, there are probably many ways to solve this, but I'm going to go with what I consider to be the easy one, which is just to say this dot text content, which is just that, hopefully that date value. So I'm going to say new date around this. Okay. Oh no. Inner text? Do you want inner text? You happy with that? I wonder why that didn't work. Text content. What's wrong with that? Interesting. String or null. Okay. All right. Let's do this then. This dot text value. No, I should just say const text value. I won't bother storing it for now. Equals this dot text or nothing. And we'll say text value. Okay, cool. So this creates a new date which represents the value that was put in the light DOM. So we'll do console.log value and just check that we're getting something useful from that. There we go. Invalid date. Typical. It's probably the need to trim. Let's do that. Is text content text value dot trim. Let's trim it. There we are. Saturday, July the 20th, 2019 at 16 minutes past 1 in the afternoon. All good. So we've now parsed our value. And what we can do now is we can actually say switch off the slotted value. I'm actually going to say display none. Ooh. Okay, cool. Next up, we are going to have a div. Actually, let's just do div id equals relative value. Whee! Cool. So this is where the fun bit kicks in, because what we can do is we can take the value, the date that we calculated, and we can figure out what to actually put inside the relative value. Oh, hello. Right, let's do this. Update relative value. Make it private because it's only for us to use internally. And we'll see, I might make this more functional. Probably will. Let's do, yeah, okay, go on then. This dot net value, sure. Which means you need to be a date. That's fine. So we'll say const now is a new date. So that's fine. That's right now. And then we can say const time diff in milliseconds equals now minus value. Now it's going to get quite upset with me because it's like, well, that's not really fair, which you can do this in JavaScript, but whatever. So get time, yeah, minus value dot get time. Now I think, hang on, let me think this through. That will give us a positive value. We want to maybe do ago because this is now a time in the past. There we are. So time diff in milliseconds. So let's do this in seconds. So the time diff in seconds is time diff in milliseconds divided by 1,000. Great so far. Still getting there. So we have the time diff in seconds. So what we'll do is we will query select to this. And we got to get it from the root. There we are. Dot. I know it exists. Yeah. Let's do it that way. Relative value dot text content equals time diff in seconds. Let's do it that way. ToString. Sure. Right, this is the bit where we want to actually turn this into a relative value, but for now we'll just check that this actually puts something out on the screen. So this is gonna, in theory, it's gonna put out the number of seconds since we captured that original time, which it has not. Cannot set text content of null. Of course you can't, because it's that. Well done, Paul. See, I leave these bugs in for you because this is life, isn't it? We all make mistakes. I'm just like everybody else. Minus 612 seconds ago. about 10 minutes, I guess. This is where the Intel stuff comes in. If you've never played with Intel before, it's a built-in, a host object. I don't know really what you want to call it. It's something that comes bundled with the browser. Now, relative time format is available in Chrome and in Firefox, and I think one or two other places, but it's not available in Safari. But the good news is, if you find that it's not available, you could just leave the content as the original value that was in the light DOM and just not do anything with it. So that's kind of nice. But in our case, we will create one of these. So we will say new Intel.relative time format. And this is where we have to give it a locale. We can actually do this quite easily by saying navigator.language. That means it'll be local to whatever the current machine is, or the current browser is, and that seems like a good thing, generally. So const formatter, and we can say formatter dot format, and we give it a value to format. Well, we know that it's the time diff in seconds, and then we can say second, which is the unit that we'd like to do. And then we can move this line down here to here, maybe like so. And that should do it. We'll build that, run it, and refresh. 732.512 seconds ago. Cool. Seconds ago. It did all that for us. We don't actually have to say that. We just gave it the unit, we just gave it the value, and it figured it out. So we could now do this a little bit neater and tidier. We could say math.round. So we don't round. Instead of saying a fraction of a second, which is a bizarre thing to do for most people, 764 seconds ago, 768, and so on and so on and so on. Let's push on a little bit because we don't always want to do it in seconds. Sometimes we want to do it in minutes, hours, days, weeks, and so on. So we can do that just as well. Right, okay. So I'm editing the video that you're watching. Hi, by the way. And how can I put this? There's a lot of back and forth in this code, and I don't think there's a lot of interest in it. So Editor Me is going to just remove all of it and tell you what you missed, which is that essentially we go from milliseconds to seconds, and then seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks. And I'll jump you to the point in the code where I've actually figured out what I want to actually get the code to do. So saves you a bunch of time. If you really want to see the code, head to the GitHub repo, which will be in the description below. Should we crack on? Yes. Let's. So what we're trying to say is start with seconds. If you're over 60 seconds, go into minutes. If you're then over 60 minutes, go to an hour. If you're over 24 hours, go to a day. And if you're over 7 days, go to a week. So let's go with it and see what we got. 20 minutes ago. Oh, how life has progressed. 20 minutes ago. Apparently. What can we do from here? Well, I'm going to change it so that the text that's actually put into the DOM in the beginning is a little more readable, just in case the JavaScript fails entirely. And I'm going to add a slot change event so that if the value is updated in some way by the JavaScript, we recalculate what the value ought to be. In which case, you should check out the source code as checked into the GitHub repo and have a look around, and maybe you'll see a little bit of extra functionality that I didn't include in today's video. And that, my friends, is how it's done. Done. See ya.